This is František Vachuška, and today I will tell you the story of his ancestors on his father's side up to the year 1642. František keeps photos of his parents at home as a memento. There is a photo of his parents at their wedding, a photo of his mother, and a photo of his father with his second wife here. Here, František is holding his parents' wedding photo. Their names were František Vachuška and Hedvika Maruškova. František was born on November 2, 1910, in Dolní Poříčí, and at the time of their wedding both he and Hedvika were 26 years old. They had only 2 children together, František and Milada. Hedvika died young at around 33 years of age. After Hedvika's death, František married Emily Polankova, who was 13 years younger at the age of 36. With her, he had a second daughter, Marie. František lived with his first wife and then with his second wife in Katowice and lived to the ripe old age of 71. The stories of František's ancestors are written in parish registers and other books, which were kept by registrars, priests, and local authorities, and which remained hidden for centuries in dusty archives. František and his ancestors are in the family tree here. Specifically, it is the paternal line stretching as far back as possible into history. František is at the very bottom. Just above him are his parents, František Sr. and Hedvika, who have already been mentioned. And now it is time to talk about parents of František Sr. František's parents were Josef Vachuška and Anna born Křešničková. Josef was born on March 20th, 1883, in Dolní Poříčí, and as a boy he lived just one street away from his future wife, Anna born Křešničková. He married her when he was 26 years old, and she was 20 at the time of the wedding. Fate was very cruel to Anna. She died at the age of only 24. Her son František lost his mother when he was not even 3 years old. During their short marriage, Joseph and Anna had 3 children, but 2 of them did not live to see their 6th month. After Anna's death, Joseph married a second time, again to Anna. Her name was Anna Kopachkova. He had at least 2 children with her. Joseph worked as a laborer on the railroad and lived with his first wife Anna in Dolní Poříčí and with his second wife Anna in Katowice. Josef's parents were František Vachuška and Marie born Pavelcová. František was born on October 23, 1850 in Horní Poříčí. When František was 27 years old, he married Marie from Dolní Poříčí, who was 3.5 years older than him. Together they had 4 children. Joseph was their second child and firstborn son. František was a provincial infantry defender of the 3rd Company and a cottager, and he lived with his family in Dolní Poříčí. He lived to the ripe old age of 88, while Marie lived to be 63. After Marie's death, František lived for another 28 years. František's parents were Tomáš Vachuška and Kateřina Haufová, born Harašková. Tomáš was born on March 24, 1807, in Sedlo, and as an adult he lived with his wife and children first in Horní Poříčí and later in Dolní Poříčí. Tomáš was 29 at the time of his marriage, and Kateřina was only 17. Despite her young age, Kateřina was already a widow. Tomáš and Kateřina had 9 children during their lifetime, but only 4 of them, all boys, lived to adulthood, and theoretically could pass on their genes. With certainty, only František passed on his genes and surname. When the last child was born to Tomáš and Kateřina, Tomáš was 56 and Kateřina was 43. Tomáš lived to be 65, and Kateřina lived another 23 years after his death, reaching the ripe old age of 75. Tomáš's parents were Jakub Vachuška and Maria Magdalena born Jandova in Sedlo. The exact date and place of Jakub's birth are unknown, but fragmentary information suggests that he was born sometime between 1780 and 1782. Jakub married 20-year-old Maria Magdalena before reaching his 20th birthday, with Maria Magdalena having been born and living only 5 houses away until then. Jakub and Maria Magdalena had 11 children in total, with Tomáš being their 4th child. It is known that Jakub took over his father's homestead just 3 weeks before his marriage and lived to be just over 60 years old. Maria Magdalena died 7 years after Jakub, at the ripe old age of 70. Jakub's parents were Jan Vachuška and his wife Kateřina in Sedlo. At that time, baptisms were recorded in the registers, which is why we know the date of Jan's baptism, but not his birth. However, it was customary to baptize on the day of birth or a few days after. John was baptized on May 13th, 1734. John and Katarzyna had 8 children, and Jan was 51 years old when their last child was born. Jakub, whom we have already mentioned, was their 6th child. Jan lived to the ripe old age of 72. From other information, we can deduce that Jan married Katarzyna around the age of 32, not earlier. Jan's parents were Petr Vachuška and his wife Mariana Magdalena in Sedlo. Petr was baptized on July 1st, 1703. He was 26 years old when his first child was born and 46 when his last child was born. Their son Jan was their 3rd child and 2nd son. Petr probably married Katarzyna around the age of 25. Petr lived to the incredible age of 74, which was remarkable for that time. Petr's parents were Martin Vachuška and his wife Dorota in Sedlo. Very little is known about Martin. It is documented that he lived with Dorota in Sedlo, had at least 6 children with her, Petr being their 3rd child and 3rd son, and died on February 12, 1742. It is not known who Martin's father was, but it is known that Jędrzej Vachuška and his wife Dorotka lived in Sedlo approximately 2 generations before Martin. Jędrzej could have been Martin's grandfather. It is documented that Jędrzej had at least 4 children with Dorotka, the eldest of whom, Vít, was baptized on May 29, 1642. The record of Vít's baptism makes Jędrzej the forefather of the family. Jędrzej lived during the 30 Years' War. It is also known that his house burned down in 1667. The loss of life and other damage are unknown, but this event undoubtedly turned the lives of his entire family upside down. We will never know the whole life story of Jędrzej and his family, and so the last part of my story remains shrouded in mystery. But if Jędrzej was indeed Martin's ancestor, which he most likely was, his genes and surname were passed down for another 4 centuries to the present day.